All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to regular meeting of council for the Township of Malahide on January 15th, 2026. And so welcome back. And I know it's already mid-month, but it is our first meeting of the year. So I just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy 2026. And with that, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. We'll begin the agenda with O Canada. Please stand.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. Any additions? Seeing none. Move to resolution to approve the agenda as presented.
That the January 15th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be approved as presented with the following addition. Correspondence item OPA 03-25 ZBA 04-25, Town of Elmer, notice of public meeting.
Thank you for that. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Leach moves. Councillor Serna seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Up 200G, meeting to consider Avon Drain and the Hotkey Drain. And under the grant committee meetings, I don't know if we're going to be discussing the harvest board or the community policing, but I am a member of both of those. And the Court of the Integrity Commission, if you're not appointed by council, you have to declare conflict. So I will do that if we are discussing them. And if we could pull them separately, so I'm not running in and out. Thank you.
Okay, noted. I don't believe. Councillor Leach.
I am a member of the Optimists in the grant decisions, and I also volunteer with the Harvest Bowl. So just to make everyone aware.
Okay, take that into consideration. Thank you. Any others? Okay, so those are noted. Thank you. So there are no announcements, I believe. So we'll proceed with the adoption of the minutes. So we have the minutes from our last meeting last year, December 18, 2025. Any errors or omissions? Yeah, so I think there was one small typo where it was showing the chair as still as the deputy mayor. So we will correct the record. I did chair that meeting. All right, so with that revision, the resolution, please.
That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 18th, 2025 be adopted.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Councillor Lewis seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so in the section on public meetings, the first meeting is meeting to consider the Avon Drain. And Mr. Spreet is with us. Welcome.
Good
Happy
evening.
New Year. Over
Happy
to
New
you.
Year. Thank you. Tonight's meeting is the consideration of the Avon Drain. So this drain came about as a request by the County of Elgin, and the owner of Avon Feed Mill. The county, that section of Putnam Road, south of Avon Drive, within the hamlet of Avon, is in poor condition. And the existing municipal drain that runs up the road is also in poor condition. So they signed a request for an improvement of the drain. In addition, Avon Feed Mill is going through some redevelopment on their property. They're doing an addition. So they went through a site plan approval process and they required an improved outlet for the drain. So what we're proposing to do is start at the Jolliffe open drain and twin the existing Avon drain tile, because the Avon drain tile that, where Jason's got the cursor right now, it was in good condition. It was only installed in 1999. So, that drain's still good. So we simply needed to twin the drain because the County of Elgin has a higher service standard than the agricultural lands. Typically, an agricultural drain is designed for 1.5 inches of rain. The county, according to the requirements of their consolidated linear infrastructure, requires a drain designed for a 5-year storm. That's a much bigger drain. So we couldn't just connect to the drain that we had in 1999. We had to twin the drain down through the Ashford lands, across over to Putnam Road, and then reconstruct the whole drain down the road. We're providing everybody with a connection. It's all designed for a 5-year storm. The people in the watershed, with the exception of the Avon Feed Mill, are paying based on a 38 millimeter design coefficient, with the County of Elgin and the Avon Feed Mill paying the rest of the cost. And in essence, the majority of the cost. The county is paying almost $260,000 of this $300,000 drain. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Doesn't appear to be any. So we could go straight, consider the resolutions then?
That the engineer report for the Avon drain be accepted, and that bylaw number 26-01, being a bylaw to provide for the Avon drain drainage works, be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Okay, mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Glinski seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And the next resolution?
That the tenders for the construction of the Avon drain be requested for February 9th, 2026 at 12 p.m.
Mover and seconder for that. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And the last one?
That the Court of Revision for the Avon drain be scheduled to be held on February 19th, 2026 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Counselor Glinski moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. So that takes us to the next meeting to consider the hotkey drains. So back to you, Mr. Spreed.
Thank you. Tonight's meeting is the consideration of the hockey drain. So this is a new drain. It came about as a condition of severance. Mr. Hockey has 2 lots located on the south side of Talbot Street, west of Hacienda Road, that he's severing those lots. And one of the conditions was that they have a legal outlet to the Candy drain, which is in behind there. And, this is for if there's any problems with surface drainage or any drainage problems in the future, the lot has a legal outlet to get to the drain, and, any issues should be able to be resolved. So Mr. Hockey owns land along Talbot Line, but he does not own land all the way to Candy Drain. So therefore, he had to sign a petition to cross the lands and construct the drain. We're simply proposing to construct 2 short stubs, which provide a catch basin, and all the lot grading done by Mr. Hockey's engineer will grade to those basins and keep all the water on his lands and go through the drains and go to the Candy Drain. So it's a very simple drain, but it's required because it provides these lots for an legal outlet. Happy to answer any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions? Counselor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, I have one question. Will this drain help the properties that are along Hacienda Road on the west side of Hacienda Road that are experiencing water problems now. Will this drain help those people out as well? Thank you.
Through your worship, no, they're just to help these two lots. The engineer who designed it had the lot grading specifically for these lots, so they're just for these lots.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions? If not, we'll consider the resolution then.
That the engineer's report for the hotkey drains be accepted and that bylaw number 2602, being a bylaw to provide for the hotkey drains drainage works, be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves, Councilor Cerna seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And the next resolution?
That the Court of Revision for the hotkey drains be scheduled to be held on February 19th, 2026 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councilor Cerna moves, Councilor Glinski seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Spreet. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, your worship. You too.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for a minor variance application. So we'll call the meeting to order with the resolution, please.
That the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Malahide be called to order at 7:13 p.m. and that Mayor Dominique Giguère be appointed chairperson for the Committee of Adjustment.
Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves, Councilor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. So the purpose of this hearing is to consider an application for a minor variance as submitted by the owner, Gary and Beverly Boulas, relating to the property known municipally as 51117 Ashton Street. So Mr. Steele, welcome and Happy New Year. Can you provide an overview of the application and any additional comments you may have received?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This application has been submitted by the owners for the purpose of facilitating the construction of a new accessory detached building. The building would exceed the zoning bylaw's maximum floor area requirement of 120 square meters, whereas where the proposal is for 179 square meters. The purpose of this increased size of structure is to accommodate the storage of personal vehicles and belongings. It is noted that the building is smaller in scale than the primary dwelling and would meet the minimum lot area requirements, lot coverage requirements of the zoning bylaw. Additionally, the building would be located at the rear of the property and would be a screen from view from the adjacent property to the east by a large existing cedar hedge. It is noted that staff are including a recommended condition that a lot grading drainage plan be provided just due to the increased size of the building to ensure that there's no impacts from surface water and drainage in the area. No comments have been received from agencies or members of the public prior to the meeting, and so staff are recommending the application be approved, subject to the two conditions as provided by staff. And that concludes our presentation. I have no questions from members of the committee.
Thank you for that. Before I open it up for questions to the committee, is there anyone in attendance online or the agent? Doesn't look like we have anyone. So any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none. So then I want to thank everyone in attendance, whether it was for this item or not. Thank you. And thank you for your input on the application. I will now ask the committee to make a decision on the application with the resolution, please.
That report number DS 2601 entitled Minor Variance Application of Gary and Beverly Boulas relating to the property located at Plan 120 Part McIntosh BLK RP 11R 4013 Part 1 51117 Ashton Street be received, and that the Township of Malahide Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application number D13 MV0825 to permit an accessory structure with a maximum floor area of 179 meters, and that the approval shall be subject to the following conditions: that the owner applicant obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years from the date of decision to the satisfaction of the chief building official, ensuring that the approved variance applies only to the proposed accessory structure as illustrated within the application, and that lot grading and drainage plan be provided to the township to the satisfaction of the chief building official.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Surna moves. Counselor Wilson seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Steele. We'll see you a little bit later on the agenda. So for now, we'll adjourn the meeting of the committee, please.
That the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Malahide be adjourned and the council meeting reconvene at 7:17 p.m.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Surna moves. Counselor Glinski seconds. All those in favor? The motion is carried. The next section, delegation. This evening, we do have a presentation regarding our community evaluation for the Water and Wastewater Master Servicing Plan. Director Godby, do you want to introduce the item and our guests?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As you referenced, and council may recall, back in 2025, which seems not that long ago, council approved staff moving forward with a community-wide water and wastewater servicing master plan with the intentional goal of seeking areas of Malahide which might be ideal for future growth and looking at the infrastructure implications specifically on water and sewer and how we could possibly provide servicing to these types of areas. As a result, we issued an RFP and have awarded that work to JL Richards, who are the experts in this, or are experts in this type of work. With us tonight, I see we have Christy online here, who is a registered professional planner working for JL Richards. Jane, I don't know if she is joining us or not. She is the professional engineer who is assigned to this file. Between the two of them, they've been steering this ship for us. And essentially tonight, what we have is kind of in the infancy of the development of this plan. We're looking just for council's commentary and understanding support as to where we are right now. There's been a high level evaluation done of Malahide and some of our existing settlement areas. And there's the evaluation matrix will be explained a little more through the presentation. But these are kind of our preliminary results. And we just want to make sure that, council and the public are also supportive of us, of where the direction that we're heading prior to the engineering team taking more of a deep dive into the technical feasibility of bringing services. We want to make sure that we're focused in the right direction. So with that, I'll turn it over to Christy, and she can maybe do a little better job of explaining things than me.
Thank you so much. Are you able to pull up the presentation on your side?
I can.
I can also share my screen if that's easier.
I have the presentation here from the other day, but I don't know if there was any changes that you had made. Chris, no changes to that? Okay.
No changes, thank you.
I got it right here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. May I begin?
Yeah, I will try to follow along with you. I don't have the PowerPoint version, so I've just got Adobe here.
Okay. Thank you so much. As I was introduced, my name is Christy Kent. I'm a senior planner with JL Richards out of the London office, and with our firm and Jane Wilson, who actually could not get online, but is chatting with me on the side in case any questions come up. We are undertaking the Water and Wastewater Master Servicing Plan for the Township of Malahide. So this first slide is just introductory. If you can go to the next one for me. Oh, one too far.
Too far.
All right, so this just provides a quick overview to council and the public as to where we are in the process. So we initiated this project last fall. We've been collecting information, learning tons about the township, specifically the water system. And we're getting into a point where we need to take a moment and consider our next steps in terms of a critical path. So we've undertaken desktop review, and we're currently in this systems analysis and assessment. Part of this assessment is looking at Malahide's several communities. I believe there's 14 of them across the township. And we really want to narrow our scope and focus the purpose of this exercise on realistic, financially viable, long-term solutions. So we're coming to council tonight in advance of moving forward to these next steps, which include starting to look at the forecasting, the demand analysis, and then that technical and financial analysis that will comprise the master plan. So as we go through the next few slides, I'm going to give you some questions and thoughts to consider. And the purpose of this is really to get council to think and reflect on what we're presenting and provide us feedback through the township so that we can get confirmation that we're on the right path. Maybe we've missed something, maybe we've need to adjust our approach. We're here to listen, and we certainly want to develop a master plan that reflects the priorities, the goals, and the needs of Malahide and council. Next slide, please. All right, so this community evaluation exercise was really intended to begin the process of narrowing down those communities within Malahide where there is that potential for alternative servicing strategies or future servicing options. We just developed a framework that looked at both community planning criteria as well as municipal infrastructure criteria, and we developed a scoring rubric. Through this evaluation process, we've developed a short list of communities within Malahide, and that's what we're presenting here tonight. So as noted, council's role is really to think, to reflect, provide local knowledge and insights, and then ultimately provide us direction as to whether or not we're on the right track. As I indicated, we do have some prompting questions. Are these criteria appropriate? Are they, comprehensive? Are they reflecting council's objectives for servicing growth and community development? Did we forget something? Is there criteria that hasn't been considered? And we'll go through that in 1 second. Community-specific circumstances. We heard when this first came to council, what about Mount Salem? What about other communities? And we've tried to take that into consideration, but we don't know everything. We've had the pleasure of working with township staff to get a lot of information downloaded to us, but we certainly appreciate that there's a range of views and perspectives and potential opportunities across Malahide. So we want to understand those community-specific circumstances, investments, or other constraints that you on the ground and representing your communities have a deeper knowledge and insight of. And then these preliminary results, we really want to emphasize, they are preliminary in nature, and we're not stuck on anything at this point. This was a very unbiased exercise where we did not apply any weighting to any particular evaluation. And as we go through each community, you'll see why certain communities emerged higher than others and we're not proceeding. Everything was weighted as the exact same amount, whereas if we had started weighting access to water higher or sanitary capacity lower or sanitary constraints lower, that would have started changing how the evaluation shook out. We didn't think in our role at this point in time, it was appropriate to apply that weighting. So that is something we can certainly consider moving forward. But again, we'd be looking to the township and council to provide us with that direction. Next slide, please. So one of the key and fundamental differences this time around when we're looking at servicing options is just this shift in the policy environment that we're working with, particularly within planning. So last October, the 2024 provincial policy statement came out, and subsequently in September, the Elgin County OP was approved and adopted and approved. Now there's this shift in how servicing hierarchy works. Previously, any settlement area, the priority was full municipal services. And through this iteration of the PPS, we're starting to see this hierarchy. Full municipal services remains on top, fully appreciating that municipal water and sewage service is ideal. However, we're seeing this increased emphasis on communal services. We've seen communal services in the past, but the shift more recently has been towards decentralized systems. So there's centralized and there's decentralized. Decentralized is essentially a municipal system that isn't like a wastewater treatment plant. It's an individual it's a communal service providing a subset of an area that doesn't feed into a larger treatment or water system. So we do see the specific language in the 2024 PPS that really wasn't emphasized previously. And then as it was before, individual services remains kind of the last option. But what this shift to communal, decentralized, some flexibility in the hierarchy, some new language, what it does, it gives municipalities the opportunity to think a little bit differently. Non-traditional hybrid approaches, thinking about what decentralized might mean, thinking about what those extensions are and what the limitations have been previously. And that's really what we're looking to do in the next step of our evaluation exercise is once we have these communities, there's going to be no rock unturned. We're going to see what is possible, what is feasible, what the costs are for these servicing opportunities in these priority communities. So doing that for all 14 communities would be a cumbersome exercise, and we wouldn't really be able to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. What we really want to do is focus on, for a handful of Malahide communities so that we can do that in-depth analysis and come up with solutions that are viable and feasible. Next slide, please. So as council's aware, the water system in Malahide Township is complex. We've had the pleasure, again, of learning tons from staff. But why this is important to this evaluation exercise and what we have learned through the process is that each of these assets have different governance structures, they have different rate structures, and that really impacts the viability and the cost of connecting. So while this would be using a centralized system approach, it was a foremost consideration and one of the things that we've probably talked the most about and tried to understand as we go through this exercise. Next slide, please. So the community evaluation criteria that we developed and applied, like I mentioned, are a mix of both community planning as well as municipal infrastructure type criteria. So we looked at the settlement area classification. We looked at existing servicing status, proximity to both water and wastewater facilities, potential for intensification and infill, and that's based on the current policy framework. So while there may be opportunity to change the policies, the land use designations, that's way down the road. We're looking at what's available now and what, if you were to have servicing there tomorrow, what we would be capable of developing. That doesn't negate that there may be opportunity for future land use policy changes to enable more growth. We're just not at that step yet. We need to identify which of these municipalities is our focus area. Other criteria include those proximity to employment areas, to community amenities, alignment with strategic growth, desirability for development, connectivity, constraints, land availability, the function and role, implementation readiness, and regional coordination considerations. And that was largely with respect to the water system and access to the Elmer Lagoons. So these criteria are designed to identify where growth and servicing investment is most logical, defensible, and aligned with municipal objectives. And as we go through them, you'll notice that some, particularly Mount Salem and Luton, are added intentionally, but it's really council's prerogative as to, are those where you want growth to occur long term? Is that where we want to make the investment? Is that where we want to explore the opportunities? So just keeping in mind, each community was scored using a numerical scale. So we do have a ranked list, but again, very preliminary in nature, and certainly welcome the feedback and ideas of council. Next slide, please. So overall, this is our summary of the preliminary evaluation that we undertook. Likely no surprise to this, council Springfield came out on top, and we certainly are recommending that we proceed with further review and evaluation. I'll focus first on the ones that we're going to proceed with, and then we can circle back to the few in between. Orwell, this is a new one. This is one that probably hasn't historically received a lot of attention. Similarly, Mount Salem and Luton. These are the areas of opportunity where we see those non-traditional or potentially hybrid approaches. As somewhere we really want to test, we want to examine feasibility, and those three in particular, due to their geographic location, they're a little bit dispersed. There's potential to potentially do something in between Mount Salem and Luton together. They really intrigue us. So not only do they score higher, they offer some different opportunities than some of the smaller, less established settlement areas across the township. So we'll chat about Aylmer and our Aylmer suburban areas in South Gore as we flip through. So if you could just go to the next slide. Springfield, I think this is probably a lot of information that this council is very familiar with. This is obviously the strongest opportunity for future servicing consideration, but we do want to explore the technical and alternative, options of alternatives as we further this master planning process. So Springfield scored the highest overall, and we're pleased to continue to look at the opportunities for Springfield long-term. Next slide, please. So Aylmer Suburban West, this is one that we're actually not recommending for further consideration. And really the basis for that, and going back to the fact that this is unweighted, we know that Aylmer is considering annexation. We know that there are other servicing constraints that are at play or factors here. So in terms of sanitary allocation, access to the lagoons, the areas around Aylmer present a regional coordination challenge that we think it's more effort and more complex than looking at other opportunities. So there's a lot of moving parts, not to say that it's not possible. It's just not where we think is it's the right time and the right place to focus the efforts right now. So next slide, please. So moving back to one that we are recommending, Orwell. What really intrigued us, and we first thought of this when we came down to the township and had an opportunity to meet with township staff. What really intrigues us about Orwell, despite its shared municipal boundary down the middle of it, is the proximity to Yarmouth Yards and being on that Aylmer secondary line. So this one is a little bit of a shift. The current policy framework is a little bit constraining, but again, that's looking at it from a current policy lens. The residential nature of this community does lend well to some intensification, and there are some contiguous parcels of land that could be suitable. So we do think that this, along with Springfield, are the strong opportunities that we really want to deep dive into. Next slide, please. So South Gore, similar to the two suburban areas, is one that we're not recommending despite its high score. This one is really a small linear settlement area, and while there has been several severances over the years, it is that low density residential development is the predominant form, and there's really not that much land that hasn't been developed yet. It's also fully on on-site private services, so any new development would have to be fairly substantial to warrant municipal servicing solution or intervention. So this is one that we're not recommending at this time. And why we're emphasizing at this time is just because of its location as an in-between Aylmer and the Port Burwell secondary line. It may emerge as something we want to consider as part of a broader solution in the medium or longer term, but right at this moment in time, it's not what we identify as a priority area. Next slide, please. Going back to the suburban areas, similar to the west side, while not under consideration for annexation, the east side doesn't really offer much advantage other than that proximity to Elmer. So if that is where the township would like us to focus our efforts, we're certainly willing to, and we have some very preliminary ideas. However, we do think that those strong opportunities that are presented outside of the immediate vicinity of Elmer are worth exploring first and foremost at this time. Next slide, please. So the next two slides and probably concluding to the end of the presentation are Mount Salem and Luton. We heard JLR at the decision of council that there's been significant interest and investment in Mount Salem. While it doesn't strike us as like the next growth hub in the township, there are a lot of criteria that do indicate it's worth taking another look at. So there's no existing municipal wastewater servicing. It's kind of in that in between the two water lines type location. There has been some severances over the years. There's a little bit of fragmentation, but it is emerging as this rural service center with an evolution occurring. So if this is an area where council believes that, this will satisfy our growth objectives, this is where we want to invest long term, this is something we would certainly be happy to look at. And we've paired it with Luton, which is the next slide, if you would, which has a lot of the same kind of criteria. It is more linear. It does have a greater constraint area, both the north and then environmental to the south. But because of the proximity to each other, we look at it as a little bit of a collective effort. There are some demands. There's some activity happening down this way, probably more so in Mount Salem than Luton. But we wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt and advance it to the next level just to see what those opportunities are. And that's really what the next stage is all about, is taking these 4 communities that we have identified and looking at them from a servicing perspective. Right now, we're looking at them from really a planning perspective, limited a little bit by the current planning policy framework, but also enabled by provincial policy framework. So if you want to go to the last slide for me, second last, maybe last slide. So what we're hoping to get from council this evening is confirmation and direction that the 4 communities that we have provided are appropriate and are the communities that council would like us to proceed with. We're also open to suggestions and recommendations of alternative focus areas, and that can be communicated to us just through comments or through the township staff whom we're in close contact with. So once we do have that direction, we are going to proceed on to the next couple of steps, which are both the demand forecasting, needs forecasting and demand analysis, as well as the technical and financial analysis. So we know we're working towards that June timeline. So this direction and feedback that we're receiving now is really critical to proceeding to those next steps. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or you can provide future comments back through township staff to our team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, let's open it up for just comments. At this stage of the process, it's mostly information, but it's, I think, as was mentioned, looking to see that we're heading in the right direction and we're investing the efforts of exploring possibilities in the right areas. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just have a question over overview of water supply systems. I'm looking at the water line systems, and you must be aware that the line that feeds the police college is for them and them only after Dingle Street. Do you know that or no? Always seems to be some confusion about that.
Director Godby or?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the Deputy Mayor. I don't see where that is actually documented anywhere in any files. That it is clearly the Township of Malahide owns and maintains that water line all the way to the property line of the OPC. It is covered by our Drinking Water Works license and permit. So to rule it out entirely as being exclusively for the use of the OPC, we have nothing firm in files anywhere to say that that is truly the case. So from that perspective, when we're looking at it, not that it's being necessarily advanced at this point, we haven't excluded use of that line based on that assumption.
Okay, well, I do remember back at the time, we had the opportunity to participate in the payment, and being as Springfield had no appetite for water, we said no, so the line, as far as I remember, was dedicated to them and them only. So that was sized accordingly, but with the new developments going out to police college, there may have to be a new line put in, I don't know that. But, just something, that agreement might be 20 years old anyway. So I don't know if our records go back that far, but thank you.
And just on that note, I will be meeting with representatives from the OPC engineering team in the next week or two in order to discuss some of that development that is going on there and what their ultimate long-term needs are going to be on both the water and the wastewater capacity side of things. So I could definitely seek some additional clarity on that when I meet with their engineering team.
Just another follow-up if I could. We've had a couple studies done before about servicing Springfield, and we've always bypassed the Elmer route because we get a surcharge going through Elmer, and we'd be hindered by their progress. So I don't know, is that ever brought into the equation too? That I think we had it going from number 3 at maybe Rogers Road or cutting across at Orville or something like that, and going up to like 52 with our own lines. So
yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. We've been thinking of along the same lines when we've been talking with staff at JL Richards. We recognize that bypassing the town of Elmer allows us to purchase water directly from the Elmer Area Secondary Water Board, as opposed to becoming essentially a town of Elmer customer, where the actual purchase price of water will vary greatly. It is significantly cheaper to not pay the Elmer rates than it is to buy it from the board. So that has been a big key consideration for us in this phase of the technical and financial analysis. That'll definitely look at those aspects of, if we were to look at how to get it to Springfield, both of those scenarios. I think the one will clearly show that one is more economically feasible than the other, even though it might be a little bit of a longer water line to get there.
Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If that is a consideration, does that then change the potential for Kingsmill Corner?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I wouldn't say that it alters it greatly. Kingsmill Corners was not thoroughly looked at. However, I think that if we're going to look at it and it becomes feasible to go that direction, it might be a future longer term goal, is that, to run a water line exclusively for Kingsmill at this point wouldn't really make a lot of sense. However, if we get one that is significantly closer, it definitely can open up future opportunities for an area like that.
That would be like another phase, or the second phase. Okay. Councilor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, just a question to the presenter. Springfield has a high rating of 31. Does that have anything to do with the fact that land that was in the official plan around Mount Salem and other areas being taken out of that area and added to the surrounding area of Springfield? Or are there other reasons that Springfield is rated so high?
Ms. Kent?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. So there were a number of criteria that we evaluated that contributed to Springfield getting a higher overall rating. The fact that it's more of a village and an established area with a diversity of uses really did contribute. We did consider what the lands had been designated previously and where those lands had fallen, and we've used the pre pre-designation prior to the OPEA, as well as what it is now, to kind of consider those as the bounds. So while lands were redesignated, it went one way, and through our analysis, we're not trying to preclude and saying these are the designations that shall be forever. If there are opportunities elsewhere, you've went through the process before, and that's certainly something we are considering as part of a more fulsome solution. We also know that there's developer interest in Springfield, and that there has been this visible market activity occurring. So where developers are already looking, that does give us a sign that there is interest, and one of those limitations or barriers to advancing development in Springfield has been servicing. So we do see this as the most significant opportunity, and like I said, that's not a surprise to this council, but we wanted to ensure we recognize that it is and has been where growth is going to be directed in Malahide. We just don't want it to only be the one that we look at when there's these other opportunities, given the shift in the policy framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, so everyone appears comfortable to endorse the areas that we will explore further. So yeah, it is in fact interesting with the change in policy just to go outside our OP box right now and reconsider new opportunities. So sounds like we are heading in the right direction. So thank you for this update and this strategic recommendation. Further comments, Mr. Godby?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And unfortunately, this wasn't really covered off in the presentation here, but the one thing that has come up to me through various sources over even the past couple days has been noted the oversight of Copenhagen. And I was just wondering if perhaps Christy could speak a little bit to that as to the lower scoring of Copenhagen and not bringing it forward, knowing that it is, it ought to score relatively reasonably well with its being at the intersection of some county roads, with it having proximity to the existing Port Burwell secondary line, as well as already having some degree of subdivision and water system. So that is one out of, that wasn't brought forward, but I'm just wondering if we could speak to that a little bit.
May I respond?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor. That is an excellent point, and thank you for mentioning Copenhagen. So Copenhagen and Luton actually scored the exact same at 14. And the reason why we didn't proceed with Copenhagen is the level of investment in the booster station there that would have to be an additional consideration on top of everything else. So we do see that there is an opportunity, and we do recognize that there has been subdivisions occurring in Copenhagen. There are some land supply existing, and we'd be more than happy to add it back onto the list. It certainly is further away from Elmer. It's further away from St. Thomas, from the regional growth that's occurring. And we just saw it as being a little bit too far. So whereas I want to say Luton and Mount Salem were in the 5 to 10 kilometer range from Elmer, from St. Thomas, Copenhagen just fell that much further, which brought it down 1 point. But again, we're certainly happy to reevaluate, rethink, and if council and township staff think that there's further merit in us going back to the drawing board and including Copenhagen, we're certainly not opposed to doing that. That's why we're here, to collect the feedback, to hear council's thoughts and staff's thoughts, and to continue forward on a unified path.
Mr. Godby, do you have a preference or recommendation to council? It sounds like it is, we could see arguments on both sides, but.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I just wanted bring it up because, some people will look at that and immediately think, well, we do have, water is kind of there. With Copenhagen, Christie is bang on correct. We do have a small drinking water system there. It is small and fragmented. It will require significant overhaul either way. One of the other options, when we talk about the financials later on down this process is, the cost of purchasing water from the Port Burwell line is also significantly more. So that is a factor in this. So, I mean, I could take it or leave it personally. But I just wanted to make sure that wasn't perceived to be an oversight, that we didn't even really talk about it. And I mean, if there isn't any real strong desire to do the additional analysis of Copenhagen, we can certainly leave it out. However, at the same time, if that was going to be one notable addition to the list, I would suggest that would be one for consideration.
Any comments from council? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through to Jason. Jason, you know how many lots are available yet in Copenhagen? I know we did some rejigging with the lots a few years ago, but do you have any idea how many are left?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can't give you an exact number, but I know like the last time I drove through, I think there was maybe 2 to 3 vacant lots still. And that was about it. Most of them have really been built out. And that system has kind of reached its maximum potential at this point. Any further growth that's going to happen down there will definitely take some upgrades to that existing system.
Any further comments on that? Okay. So sounds like going with the recommendation, with what is being recommended, sounds like those are, because I think once you start opening it up, then you could almost build an argument on all the other ones that scored around 13, 14. And so, okay. So we'll, sounds like we could proceed as recommended through this report. So we'll look at a resolution, please.
That the presentation from Christy Kent and Jane Wilson of JL Richards and Associates regarding the community evaluation for water and wastewater master servicing plan be received for information, and that Council direct JL Richards and Associates to proceed with further review and evaluation of servicing options and alternatives for the community of Springfield, Orwell, Mount Salem, and Luton for further servicing evaluation.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves. Councilor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Sorry, can we do that again? All those in favor? Thank you. That motion is carried. Thank you, Ms. Kent, and all the best in next steps.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to new business. We have the application for a severance. Mr. Steele, are you back with us? Yes, you are. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before council tonight is a consent application, E7-26. The owners of this property own several farm holdings within the township, and the existing dwelling on the property has become surplus to their needs as a result of farm consolidation, and they are proposing to sever the existing dwelling and retain the vacant farmland. Staff have reviewed the application and have no concerns with the proposal, and have recommended that the application be supported and that the recommended conditions be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its consideration. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions from members of council.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, we have the resolution.
The report number DS 2602 entitled Application for Consent to Sever of John Wenninger relating to the property located at Concession 2, part of Lot 7, Malahide, and known municipally as 48776 Jamestown Line be received, and that application to consent to sever number E726 of John Wenninger be supported for the reasons set out in this report, and that this report and recommended conditions be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its review and consideration.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Steele. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Next item under new business is the 2026 interim tax levy bylaw. Welcome, Ms. Gruber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I present the 2026 interim tax levy bylaw. This is a statutory bylaw that allows for the township to do the interim tax billing. As in other years, it will be due March 15th and June 15th, and it's 50% of 2025's total taxes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any questions? Comments? Seeing none, the resolution.
That report number FIN 2601 entitled 2026 Interim Tax Levy Bylaw be received, and that bylaw 2603 be given a first, second, and third reading.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Glinski moves. Counselor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And the next item is the implications of the County of Elgin Transportation Master Plan. So this one came straight to council because there is a deadline to provide comments. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Godby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, this report is a very scaled down summary of a very big, long, and in-depth process that has been going on at the county level over the past almost 4 years now. The Elgin County is prepared its first transportation master plan that they have developed at the county. As part of this, they've been analyzing data for about 4 years. It was initiated back in 2001. Then with the recent development of the Yarmouth Yards development and all those changes significant to the area, the process was put on pause. It was reinitiated last year once kind of the dust had settled on some of that. And now we are here again to look at what their final product is. It is not attached to this report, as there are literally hundreds of pages of data that have been compiled and presented to county council over the past about year and a half. So what I have here is basically a summary of some of the direct implications, or highlighting the direct implications to the township. So the purpose of the Transportation Master Plan is, to respond to anticipated road capacity constraints, updating the road classification and design standards for the county, rationalizing all of their transportation assets, meaning what should we have and what shouldn't we have, supporting safety on county roads, providing responsiveness to changes and challenges across the county, looking at passenger transit service, e-bikes and other micro-mobility vehicles and how they may impact county roads, pedestrian crossings on county roads, facilitating and managing heavy truck traffic. We all know that can become a significant issue with the rural nature of our municipalities, which ties directly to the supporting movement of agricultural equipment across the county, and support for rail freight. So the whole Transportation Master Plan has extensive commentary on a lot of these aspects, and it can be kind of boiled down to some recommended actions that are coming out of this. And this includes protection of identifying strategic arterial corridors to prioritize their traffic mobility function and related improvements. Essentially, what we're saying there is making sure that the county road network is still helping get people strategically from A to B in an efficient manner. Road and bridge asset transfers, which I'm going to talk more about as we move on here. The removal of some county bridges, continuing to emphasize and improve upon road safety, looking at transit service across Elgin County, and then other operational improvements or policies and guideline studies, things that they can do to further support transportation across the county and in all the lower tiers. So as the mayor mentioned, this was, we have a bit of a timeline on this, being that for formalized comments, they need to be submitted tomorrow. So the way it ended up happening here is this was put out for public review in December, December the 12th specifically. Then unfortunately, Christmas and the holidays come, and so here we are getting some comments presented to council here, hopefully to get your support in order for us to issue some formalized comments to the county as part of the master planning process. So back to how does this impact Malahide? There's a few things that are directly affecting us when it comes to the road rationalization portion of this study. What that has done is they've looked at traffic volumes and traffic patterns across Elgin County and basically tried to identify and rationalize on their side as to what should be a county road, which ones are utilized to the point that it warrants the county being responsible as opposed to it being a lower tier or a local road for us. So within this study, the draft TMP currently identifies 3 roads which are scheduled to be downloaded to the township in what they call the near term, which is a period anywhere between 2026 and 2034. So that includes Whitaker Road here from Lions Line down to Ron McNeil. It includes Imperial Road from Dexter Line to Levi Street, which is the county portion of what I would call the urban area of Port Bruce, as well as Dexter Line from Imperial to Collins Street. So essentially they're looking that everything within the village of Port Bruce would be downloaded to the township. It would become our asset to maintain, and all future capital works would be our responsibilities. Additionally, they've identified 4 pieces of road which are to be downloaded in the long term, being 2044 to 2054. This includes Putnam Road from Lions Line to Ron McNeil, Glen Collin from Imperial to Hacienda, Hacienda from Glen Collin to Ron McNeil, and Springwater from Ron McNeil to John Wise. While these are significantly away, and I'm sure will be reviewed time and time again, as master plans typically are reviewed on about a 5-year period, this is what they're suggesting at this point. However, as far as we are aware, there's no pending transfer of these assets to be being considered. Additionally to note is the TMP has recommended the closure of the Jamestown Line Bridge in central Elgin to vehicular traffic in the near term, meaning basically as soon as they can figure out how that might look, they'd be looking to close that. And the reason I draw that to councilors' attention is just due to the sheer proximity to our border and the potential impact that it could have on transportation and on residents in and around the Jamestown Line, Copenhagen, Port Bruce area. So those are the proposed assets that the township is going to inherit pending county council approval and pending the development of a transfer protocol. It's referenced in the TMP that we will have to develop some sort of transfer protocol because the county will be giving us these assets. What does that look like for potential transfer of funding, or whether they're going to rehab the facility or the assets first prior to that? All that still needs to be sorted out. And there will be some engagement with the local municipalities, and we will be requested to work with the county in order to kind of sort out all those fine details, which will then ultimately be presented to county council for their approval and consideration prior to any of these downloads happening. One of the other major items that was highlighted through the TMP was relating to development charges. Essentially, the TMP has forecasted some extensive spending that is going to be needed to be done. You know, we're talking approximately 23 million in the near term and 118 million in the medium term. So that's, you know, we're talking almost 140, 150 million dollars over the next 20 years on transportation assets. One thing that the county currently does not have is development charges in order to help ensure that growth is paying up their fair share for a portion of this. So one of the recommendations is for the county to further proceed with looking at establishing development charges, doing a background study, and implementing some recommendations, whatever that may look like. I'm not an expert in development charges, therefore I can't really speak too much to that, other than we are supportive of this goal to have them look at what feasibility there is in order to do something like this and get development charges in place at the county level. So if you will note financial implications that this may have is essentially everything that gets downloaded or anything that gets downloaded will now become a township asset, meaning it's going to have to be factored into our asset management plans and all of our future operating and capital budgets. So what we are going to have to keep in mind when they are doing the development of the transfer protocol is what are those actual financial implications going to look like on ourselves as well as all the other lower tier municipalities. We are of the opinion that you know, before a download happens, maybe there should be some sort of rehabilitation of these assets or some sort of financial transfer out of the county's budgets back to the lower tiers. However, these are things that will still need to be negotiated. One other thing to note is that with the download of any road asset, that will be coming with a corresponding decrease to our annual road maintenance allocation that we get from the county as part of our RMA agreement for maintaining county roads. Essentially, they will just we are currently paid by road class and by kilometer of road, where they're going to give us 6 kilometers of road, say. They're going to decrease our funding by 6 kilometers, whatever that looks like, which then those costs will be borne directly into our annual operating budgets. So those were kind of the two high-level major items that staff had noted that are of concern. However, that being the case, we also provide comments, and I'm proposing to submit the letter on page 68, 69, 70 and 71 of the agenda, essentially to provide formalized comments back to the county from the township as to our thoughts on some of this. Generally speaking, we are supportive of a lot of the efforts and the programs that they're proposing across the county, and our comments are reflective of that. We are concerned with potential long-term and short-term financial implications, but still supportive of the work that they are doing. And really, we are the crux of it is requesting and expecting that the township and all the other lower tiers are actively engaged through the next process of rationalizing and establishing the transfer protocol whereby the assets will be turned over to the lower tiers. Outside of that, I think that kind of covers for the most part. I guess one other thing I would note is the request that the county help us by taking a more proactive role in pedestrian safety and dealing with pedestrian facilities in and around county roads. I know that can sometimes become a point of conflict between the two levels of government as to figuring out, when we have development along county roads that, we're increasing densification and we're encouraging people to live there, but then the township is ultimately the one left to figure out how to get people walking from A to B or using alternatives to vehicles for transportation around. And this is another common theme that the lower tiers have all expressed. We do meet regularly, and I think you'll see that a lot of these comments are pretty much harmonized across a lot of the lower tiers. I know Central Elgin had taken a report earlier this week with very similar comments to this, as well as Southwold. Unfortunately, I've seen their comments where they're very similar to ours. However, they did not get an opportunity to get a kind of a council and endorsement on it just due to the timeline. So if there are any questions, there is a lot of information here and a lot to digest. From my perspective, I think we've got a pretty good handle on some decent comments, formalized comments that if council supports this report and this letter, they will be submitted formally as part of the master planning process tomorrow. And then going forward, we will continue to have staff involvement and have our ear to the ground as to what direction this is going to go in the future. So if there are any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Cerna.
Thank you. The short-term stuff, I don't know how much I can argue with it with the traffic numbers. If the data supports that, that's what it does. The long-term downloading, I have to, I guess, disagree with Putnam Road and the Hacienda Road from Glen Colin back up to Ron McNeil. That's, we've got two major industrial commercial areas there, and Ron McNeil is a major county road, and hooking that up and the police college up with that county road is part of the county road system. Like it needs to be continued to be maintained in that county road system for the amount and type of traffic that's going to be. This stuff on Putnam Road, that's the main artery back up to the 401. I don't know how they can't think that that's a main artery. So those two, hopefully that loses traction before it's even on the list.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cerna.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if all this downloading is because we got a new warden out in county, but just kidding. You mentioned about taking the Jamestown Bridge out. Is that not the one that we just replaced when they put the new bridge in Port Bruce? They took the temporary bridge out and then they moved it, and I thought they put it in Jamestown. That's what I wanted to know because it just seemed funny that I thought they just put a bridge there and now they're going to close it. They're not gonna just have a dead end there. They got to have something there, right?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Those details on that Jamestown Line Bridge have not been fully finalized. I believe their first proposal and the first recommendation of the TMP is to close it to vehicular traffic. Whether they choose to leave it as put in some turnarounds and perhaps have it as a pedestrian or a trail crossing of some sort is still unknown. And that is something that my understanding is they will be working more closely with Central Elgin and the county on figuring out exactly what that means if it is closed to vehicular traffic. I think the issue is the bridge structure itself is getting to a point where there are concerns about vehicular traffic, and that's why they're proposing shutting it down, at least for that purpose. Whether that includes full removal or not is yet to be seen.
Thank you. Councilor Lewis.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I heard you mention down Port Bruce. So you're talking what used to be Imperial, they're calling Dexter Line that runs around the whole beach, basically. Is that what's being talked about being transferred to Malahide?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So you have Imperial, like if you were to coming down Imperial and go across the bridge all the way down to the pier, you have that section, which they're proposing to download. And then if you're coming down Dexter and you hit that intersection of Imperial and you continue east and kind of along the edge of the riverside there, that is still a county portion. So that piece they're also proposing to us. So essentially the county road network would be coming down Dexter east from Port Stanley. You would intersect just at the bridge there and it would head north up into Elmer. So they're basically saying everything within the village proper is going to essentially become township road to deal with.
Okay, so follow up there. So yeah, I just want to bring it up. So in my term, well, here, Brian from the county, I believe it was 2026 that road was to be redone from the county, because I've told constituents in hot situations how their laneways and how certain things were going to be fixed when they widened that road, when the county put that road in. So I'm just wondering how that's coincidental, maybe, that the county's passing this road off to us now when it was in the plans. Like, I believe it was scheduled for this year, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't mind just if you could inquire about that, just to see if that was actually in the works for, because I believe it was, so.
Mr. Godby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That in itself is an excellent illustration as to staff's concerns about wanting to see that transfer protocol and those fine details. Like if it was always their intention to rebuild a road or a bridge or whatever the asset may be, it is our opinion that work should still proceed prior to the download. I mean, they've been budgeting, they've been planning for it. It wouldn't necessarily be fair to see, you can have my old garbage car, but you don't get the new one. You know what I mean? It's our hope, and that is the crux of our concern, that we are actively engaged in that transfer protocol development and those fine details for all the assets that are looking to be transferred, to make sure that they're at least rehabilitated to a good point, or we are provided with what they had planned to spend on that rehabilitation themselves, that money is transferred or something of that nature. So we are very eager to participate in that process.
Councilor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Director Godby. How has the development of the St. Thomas area affected the road systems? Because I know it has changed my driving behavior and the routes that I take. Is that factored into this at all? Because I know that there's others who change their driving behavior based upon that area.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Leach, it's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of detail on what their findings were. I can only surmise that there have been significant driving habit changes. You know, the speed limits change, the surrounding areas change, and I don't think we've fully realized the extent of those changes. So that is why the renewal of these types of plans on a regular basis and the ongoing monitoring of traffic and collision data and all that stuff is very important, because it could very well impact a lot of the roads in and around that whole area of St. Thomas as that development occurs, and as more people move in the area, you will see those traffic patterns shifting. And that is one of the things that a study like this, you know, is good for it, in order to keep updating and keep apprised as to the changes that are happening at the community level.
Thank you. I realize 2044 to 2054 is a long way out, but I would question whether Springwater Road all the way from Ron McNeil to John Wise is a wise download. I would think that a portion of that should continue to be county, from Ron McNeil to number 3 at any rate.
Thank you for that. Any further comment, Deputy Mayor Widner?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment to Jason. Under outdated or unclear TMP components, a technical memorandum reviewing county road locations with the highest collision frequencies from 2020 to 2024 has been prepared, but its integration in the TMP is unclear. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect how the county gets its information about accidents and things like that. I know I've been involved with bringing it to their attention, and they didn't have the information. I don't know if it's because of all this privacy stuff or whatever goes on. Once I brought their attention, they did a little digging. They were able to get some of it. But it makes it pretty hard to lobby for things when you don't have any information at the county end. And I mean, I don't know if it's their fault, but like a good example, like 52 and 73, the roundabout that I was lobbying for, it's actually going to be on the books in the future. And we're able to get 45 and 73, some improvements done there. But in this day and age, that information shouldn't be that hard to get. And I don't know what they can do to get that information to make clear decisions about corner safety. So thank you.
Most of that data is OPP, so we should be able to receive it. I was talking to a person in Avon that was concerned about some accidents and stuff that were happening there regularly, and they were talking to me about some data. So the OPP have 56 accidents at an intersection in the last 5 years on their data, but they asked for mine. But we will only have like 10, less than 10 on ours. Only the accidents only show up for us on our records when there's personal injury or we're called out. So like there's probably 45 fender benders there that we were never at. But the more accurate data will be contained by the OPP traffic report, so they'll have the data. Better than us for us, our own data anyway.
Follow up?
Yes, Jeff, thank you for that. Will the OPP release that though? They usually have pretty strict about anything they release. You said there's 45. Is that in Avon you're talking about?
Yeah, in Avon, 56 accidents the last 5 years at the intersection of Putnam Road and Avon Drive.
Okay. Usually the fire department gets called out to those things, don't they? Not necessarily.
Not if there's no injuries, or if there's no injuries, that we typically don't get called out. So
okay.
I would think ourselves, like, just I haven't looked at the intersection, because when we get called out, it's different. Depends where it's called in. It can be called in on Avon Drive. It could be called in on Putnam. So it's hard to find it all. But like, just in recollection, in the last 5 years, I could probably say like this last 2 years has been busy there. But other than that, we weren't there a lot. So I wouldn't think we've been there more than 10 times ourselves in the last 5 years. So, but they told me, the gentleman in Avon said they had the police report for their traffic study there that was 56 accidents there. So.
Okay, that's different than the information that we were given. I thought there's only like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
and it wasn't.
He told me 56, so I'd have to verify that with the OPP myself. But he was just telling me
That's
50
interesting.
seconds, yeah.
I'd like to follow up on that. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, that's something we can look into, and I think there are some ongoing discussions about in Avon specifically, and I think we're running into different definitions of accidents and different radius. So different reports, some are just looking at the intersection, some are that I've seen are looking really broadly, some are including everything. There are a lot of deer collision that were part of the 56, but then if it was personal injury, so yeah, I think everybody's looking to straighten that out so that everybody's looking at the same information to see if there's further improvements warranted. So the county is involved with that. But as far as the master plan, I just want to also highlight, because I know we use the word concern today, and I think it's more like flagged, like I don't want to be too alarmist, because I know it was made clear at the county that this is a high-level plan. So every single decision, like every recommendation, needs to be discussed specifically with all the details. And then specific decisions will go back to county council for approval. So this is really a guiding document, but I think it's really wise to then be on the record to say, you say you're going to consult us, you say you're gonna, go to county council for specific decisions. So let us be on the record that we will make sure that you do that, and we will look at the level of details, because clearly here there are some potential implications that we need to pay attention to. At the same time, the other discussion was about keeping in mind, again, so that we're not too alarmist, is the fact that that 6 kilometers of road that's being maintained and plowed doesn't increase. It just, so if we look at the one taxpayer, it's who is being billed and like who's paying for the maintenance. So potentially one of the upside of downloading is also downgrading the service level from a county road to a Malahide road. So so if we zoom out and look at the big picture, what we'll need to pay attention to is to see that there should be a decrease at the county level in their road budget from the taxpayers. So I should be paying less to the county and then more to Malahide. But really, as a taxpayer, I should walk away either with a net zero or potentially a decrease. If we lower the service level, then we don't have to have the same width and the same grade, and because the purpose of them downloading it is to recognize it doesn't fit their criteria as a county road. So those are some of the potential upsides, but I certainly support that it's always wise to be on the record to say, good plan, let's keep talking, and we will be paying close attention. Any further comments? Oh, Councilor Lewis.
Maybe just one more about a road. And it's a lot to do with liability too, like with the flood that goes on in Port Bruce. Right now, that's sort of the county's issue when that road floods. And when they reconstruct it, how they would bring it up over flood levels. Like that should be brought into it, Jason, actually, if we could be, because that's something that's could come back into Malahide in longer term and really be a sting. Because yeah, I think things are changing down in Port Bruce for flood area, and that road will probably have to be brought up eventually. And if that's the case, that would be on our ticket then. So just certain, yeah, if it can be. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so to be continued for sure. It's a long-term plan, but we have to pay attention. So if there are no further comments or questions, the resolution, please.
The report number PW 2601 entitled Implications of the County of Elgin Transportation Master Plan be received, and the council endorses the formal submission of the comments contained within attachment 1 of this report as part of the master plan process.
Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Serna moves, Councilor Lewis seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. So I'm going to suggest we'll just take care of the bylaws and then we'll do a brief recess. The bylaws, please.
That the following bylaws be now read a first and second time. Bylaw 2601, Avon Drain, Bylaw 2602, Hotkey Drains, and the following bylaws be now read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. 2603, Interim Tax Levy, and 2604, Collins Street Property Acquisition.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, so we can, we'll pass sure. We'll pass the resolution to move into committee of the whole, and then we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Resolved that we do now move into committee of the whole.
Mover and seconder, Counselor Sterna moves, Counselor Lewis seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Brief recess. Okay, welcome back. So we are now sitting as a committee of the whole, and the first item for the committee to consider is the community grant requests. Do we have? Yes, we do. Welcome, our Manager of Community Relations and Economic Development, Mr. Tripp. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Good evening. Happy New Year. So, every year the township receives grant requests from community groups, associations, not-for-profits, and cemetery boards. For 2026, there were 18 applications in total, and these requests amounted to $127,834. The committee has recommended support for 17 of these applications, representing $60,784 of financial assistance as detailed in Appendix A. I'd like to thank all of the community organizations, associations, and boards that applied, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll open it up for questions. Also want to thank the committee for good discussions and the work of staff and in preparing the packages for the committee that made the work and the deliberations very productive. So thank you for all that work. Any questions or comments? Councillor Wilson?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I see that the Springfield Cemetery Board, they asked for 7,500, got 5,000. I know that last year and previous years that I think it was through the Swans, but I know Kelly Pearson, I think she had a lot to do with it. They had different dinners where you drove into the Springfield and picked up your roast beef dinner, that kind of thing for pickup. And that was to support the Springfield Cemetery. Well, if they're having to hold fundraisers like that to have enough stuff to maintain the cemetery, I think they maybe need a little more. So I don't know, I wasn't there on the committee. I just know what other efforts go into it beyond just what they're asking for here. And if they're not looking after it, then we get to. So, if we can help them out that's all I'm saying. Thanks.
Right. So thank you for that. I'll turn it over to Mr. Tripp to comment and just for your consideration as part of the deliberation and as part of the submission, the committee looks at their budget and their expenses. And so and part of the policy is to contribute based on the need. So the recommendation would be based on the committee having reviewed the budget that they submitted for 2026 and the committee deeming that this would be sufficient. But Mr. Tripp probably has a closer look at the actual submission handy. I don't know if you want to add a comment to that. Would that put them at risk?
Sure. And through you, Madam Mayor, we do look at financial capacity as one of the eligibility criteria. And when we looked at the finances and matched it up, we don't necessarily want to give too much money over, especially if it's an organization that's seeking funds for operations, just being fiscally responsible. And to the other note, the Swans specifically do receive money with regard to, or a discount for renting facility spaces as well. So I'll just add that in there as well.
Does that clarify? 'Cause so like I said, I think based on the committee, it didn't seem that it would put them at risk or in need to be doing fundraising. That wasn't something that transpired through the application.
Okay. And the other one that I had, I just want to support is the Springfield Stingers softball stuff. Basically, if we don't have kids filling those programs, we don't have to worry about there being programs to keep the diamonds filled later as they become teenagers and adults. So once again, anything we can do to support them, I'd like to do. I've never been on the grant committee. I don't know what the criterion are. Those are just ones that stood out for me. Thanks.
Any other comments? Deputy Mayor Woodner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Maybe through to Stephen. Stephen, I'm not seeing, maybe I missed it, but what we gave in 2025. I'm looking specifically at the Elgin County Plowmen's Association they wanted 500, we're giving them 250. Do you know what we gave them in 2025?
My understanding, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, my understanding is that they did not apply last year. And then I believe the previous year before that, the amount was either 250 or 500. I can't say off the top of my head, but I can definitely go back and get that information for you.
Okay, thank you for that. I know they do struggle, and 250 is not very much, but they're struggling to keep surviving. So 500 in my mind wouldn't be out of range, but it's a good event and it sure showcases the community because it's held in Malahide quite a few times. So thank you.
And again, the same criteria was applied. It was based on the budget that they submitted. So 250 seemed to meet their actual budget need. But that's correct. They didn't apply last year. Right. Councilor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank the committee for the increase to the Aylmer and Malahide Museum and Archives. I do sit on that as part of my role on council, and thank you for consideration of a higher amount.
Thank you for that recognition. I also want to thank the members of the board and staff for working closely with the committee and with staff we were able to have good discussions throughout the year leading up to their application to kind of reshift the way and the philosophy of the funding approach where we really want to support more of their programming and perhaps not get involved so much in their infrastructure or capital needs. And maybe that's not the place of the municipality to get involved with that, but certainly programming. So I know it was a bit of an adjustment for them, but staff worked really closely with them to assist with that kind of different approach. And I think you see the positive result here. Any other comments? Councilor Wilson.
Not through you, Madam Mayor. Was glad to see the funding restored for the swimming program through the YWCA. It's that one was one decision that I sort of had second thoughts on after the fact. I'm glad that there's some funding going back there again. Thanks.
Thank you for highlighting that as well. This was another great opportunity to reorient and be more consistent with our philosophy where we're supporting programming, so the actual lessons as opposed to somebody else's capital infrastructure asset. So now it feels much more consistent. And so again, kudos to the committee for bringing that more consistent, clear approach. Okay, so would it be, so I know there were a few comments on the couple of items. What is the committee's wish? Do you wish to make the recommendation to council to endorse the grant committee's recommendation as presented? Would you like to see some adjustments? Sounds reasonable. All right. So let's consider a resolution, please.
That report DS 2603 entitled Community Grant Request be received for information, and that the committee recommend that the community grants in the amount of $60,784 be approved and distributed as recommended by the Community Grants Committee.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves. Yeah, you can, as a chair, you can certainly, since it was your recommendation, you can absolutely give it full endorsement. So yes, so in fact, it should be Counselor Lewis who moves and then Counselor Wilson who seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Good work. Thank you again, Mr. Tripp.
Okay, good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so this brings us back to our 2026 draft budget deliberations. Okay, so Ms. Jones, do you want to, so it was a good discussion and at our last meeting, December 18th, and then a few items that, and a few questions that were brought up. So what you see in the report today is some of the responses. Just trying to myself get to that page. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so we can go item by item and you let me know if there are further questions or if the answer that's provided is sufficient. So there was a question about the impact letters. I think that's been clarified. Any further questions or comments on that? No? There was a discussion on the fire chief's pickup truck and the recommendation that this will be reviewed at a later date with the Equipment and Fleet Committee. Sounds reasonable. Councillor Cerna?
Yeah, just the first thing here, the sidewalk maintenance. I got a few calls about sidewalk maintenance in Springfield. Okay, says the draft budget says $5,000. I just poured a barn, the cement floor in a barn, and I know $5,000 for cement doesn't go very far. So I'm just wondering if somebody could walk me through like I know in Springfield and I think in Lyons they have a fund that is in trust and it draws interest, and that's used to maintain the sidewalks, and they're levied every year. Like, explain this to me. And then we only take $5,000 to fix sidewalks? I don't know. So if through you, Madam Mayor, to I guess Jason, if you could explain the sidewalks thing to me, I would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for that. So yeah, so that sort of item 3 and 4 both refer to sidewalks. So maybe we'll cover the whole thing and walk through the chart. So thank you. Good question.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the operational amount of $5,000 for repairs is part of that special levy for Springfield. Only 40% of that is funded by the special levy. The remainder of that is funded by the general tax levy. Unspent portions are put into the special reserves for capital projects related to sidewalks and streetlights. So there are no capital projects withdrawing from that reserve for 2026, but there certainly will be in the future. We just don't have one scheduled for this year.
So, follow up. So through you, Madam Mayor, to Jason, is there no sidewalks that need fixing in Springfield this year?
Through you, Madam Mayor. We have identified our last sidewalk inspections were done in September of 2025. We identified every little issue with all the sidewalks. We've picked up, I think it was 15 panels that are scheduled for replacement. However, nothing is outside of MMS compliance at this point, which is why we haven't gone full bore asking for a pile of money to replace a whole bunch of panels. In talking with Ryan through our operations, we figure that $5,000 a year, which is included in our regular ask every year, is going to be enough to replace a couple panels a year over the next couple of years to get rid of those ones that we've identified should be replaced. The reason we didn't ask to do them all right now is they're not required to be done. Like from a liability standpoint, we are still well within MMS compliance with the way we're handling this. And we just didn't want to say, hey, give us $30,000 to replace some panels if we can kind of defer those costs down the road a little bit. Reality is, if it is out of compliance, we will fix it because that represents a significant liability to the township. But if it's within compliance, we don't want to just go spend for the sake of spending. We would rather see that money get put back into the reserve or back into the bank for future use when it's truly required.
So, Councilor Wilson.
Just along this direct subject here, I guess if you're looking for spots to start at, the post office in front of there would be a good spot. I've heard that a number of conversations and phone calls, so I'm glad that it's on the radar. This is, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it now because it's budget time again. I've asked about it a few times, but putting a bench in the pump track park. I remember asking about it on a few different occasions, and I can't find the stuff in the emails anymore because for some reason I can only go back and look so far. But if this is budget time, that's something I've asked about a few times and just wondered about that. Thanks.
Through you, Madam Mayor. We poured a pad there last year. There should be a bench on it. If not, I'll follow up to see. That was the intention. No, that was, we had a couple locations with the money that council approved in our budget last year. That one was prioritized as a place to get a bench on a pad so that it's good for sitting and it's easy for us to maintain. But if in the event that's not there, I will definitely follow up.
And so I just want to look back on the sidewalk maintenance. Maybe it may be worthwhile at a later date, if there is a plan on which panels would be replaced and when, that might be useful for the community to know what like this year and maybe next year, because not everybody knows what the minimum standard is. And they're walking around and say, well, this doesn't look right, or this looks broken, this should be replaced. So maybe if we could sort that out. And if that leads to a further discussion on the different levels of service, where perhaps the community as a whole doesn't think that the minimum standard fits their minimum standard, then we'll need to have that discussion, because there's a price tag for that. But because there is some confusion out there, and I think everybody's getting phone calls, so that we can sort that out. All right. So thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through to Jason. Jason, you're right. I guess the minimum maintenance standards are being met in Springfield. I went out last Sunday morning with my T-square and did some actual measurements. They are in compliance. Would it be possible, though, to grind there's one specific with about 2 panels, to grind that down and make it a little more smooth and maybe put some kind of compound to level it out? It would, give it some lifespan and make it, more acceptable.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. Yes, that is the kind of work that we would also incur costs for this. sidewalk maintenance. For grinding, that is one way. Not every panel necessarily needs to be fully replaced at that time, so it is a cost-effective way to deal with those. So, if you let me know where specifically you're thinking of, I'll flag it and we can definitely look at that.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it's right in front of the post office. I believe there's 2 panels and it's just I think it's even marked for that, but it is in compliance, but it's a possible trip hazard, but where do you stop? Where do you start, right? But if grinding, is that fairly cost efficient?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's significantly more cost efficient than removal and repouring. And where it can be done and it makes sense, we try and do that. Because that is something that, we can go rent a grinder and have the guys do that ourselves. It's not necessarily something that you need a specialized a contractor for. However, if we do assemble enough work to justify putting out a small tender package, then that's typically when we will look at bringing in a contractor to do some of these things, just to get it done quickly and efficiently.
Thank you for that.
Okay. So I want to go back to item 4 then. I think Councillor Wilson, you had a question about like trying to clarify what the special levy versus the general tax levy. So this is why this chart is provided there. So I just want to check to see if that provided the clarity we were looking for. Yep. Great. So great work on that as well. So then brings us the other item that raised a few questions was the engineer's review of the salt sheds. So there are a few comments provided here. I don't know if Mr. Gobby, you want to add to what is being provided here. Council, you can let us know if does that answer your question. Mr. Gobby?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a whole lot to add to what's in the report there, other than to say that our asset management plan identifies almost $1 million worth of spending to occur at the Northworks yard over the next 20 years. It also is, I think, around 1.2 million at the Southworks yard over the next 20 years. So one of the biggest things that we're trying to do here is make sure that we're not throwing good money after bad. We want to get a strong assessment done of these sites and making sure that, in my opinion, for $25,000 per site-ish, that I think we will be well suited to get that information, because we don't know what we don't know prior to continuing down a road that will be recommending significant spending on these sites. If the structure itself is not in great shape, then we definitely would like to know that now so that we can readjust plans going forward. And if we can easily report back to council with recommendations, or after we have some discussions with the structural engineers prior to really spending too much money on the analysis. If they we don't want to spend the money and we don't have to, but it ultimately comes back to we don't know what we don't know, and we really want to make sure that we're all well informed prior to taking any further actions.
Okay, so this would be a placeholder as an upper limit, and you could come back to council with the full scope of work to confirm if indeed that is the amount that we need to spend to get the answers that we're looking for.
Yes, we can definitely report back on, if we end up finding out that it's going to be significantly less, or hopefully not more. We can definitely report that to council before we get any way too far down any road.
Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through to Jason. Jason, we did a bit of a tour, you and I, down there, and thank you for going with me. It was quite informative. I think what we kind of decided, some of the walls in question are not even load-bearing walls. They're just there. They're 12 inches thick. It really shouldn't be a problem. They probably could be repaired, but it does have to be looked at. I guess they would do some sound testing and some bore testing to prove it, but the fact they're not load-bearing walls, I wouldn't think that they'd be that big a deal, but it is good to have a look at stuff. I like to see stuff from my own eyes, and it was very good. I appreciate you taking me there, and look forward to seeing what they come up with anyway. Now, the North Yard, we didn't go out there. Is it the same problem there, or is it that Quonset hut thing we're talking about, or the shop?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. At the North Yard, we're looking at that would be the northernmost room there where we've got salt storage. It's hard to say that it's the same. However, the concrete in there, it unfortunately is full of salt. So it's really hard to tell at the moment, but it was showing a lot of the similar signs of delamination, some of the rebar starting to come through, cracking in the concrete. So that was the same idea, is that if we're going to get engage some professionals to look at the South Yard, that we should also take a look at this North Yard, because it's likely going to be, it appears from our estimation to be pretty similar scope of work there. Our plan is that as winter control comes to an end, we're going to try and utilize all the salt and sand out of those buildings as best we can, so we don't have to move it twice, and get those guys in there to have a look at it this spring. And then we'll be able to come back and give you a much better idea as to what's happening.
Follow-up?
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I know we looked at the South Yard, and we're actually, in fact, where we saw the damage, there's no salt stored in that building. It's just for equipment storage. And there is some small beams on that wall, but all it does is support cladding on the outside. Is actually an arch steel building. So the north and south walls support all the weight and the structure of it. So look forward to seeing what you have in the North Yard. But I mean, it's an inherent problem where probably the loaders hit it. They can't help that. They're scooping stuff all the time. So be interesting to see some pictures or have an on-site inspection when that gets emptied. So thank you.
Councilor Leach?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you,
See, that's
Madam Mayor. To prevent some of these things from happening once a repair is made, can there be some sort of finish put on to prevent water intrusion into the wall?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is a good question. And it's something we can definitely look at. You know, in today's world of all the crazy compounds and sealants and everything that they make now, I would imagine there would be something that could help, protect any of the salt and any of the moisture from sucking minerals and stuff out of the concrete. And that's something we can definitely have a conversation about, because, ultimately, we're not alone in this, and I'm certain that there's other places that have run into this type of issue, and I'd be curious to know what exactly they do as well. So we will definitely flag that and have that conversation and provide that information back.
So any further comments on this item? Are we comfortable leaving it as it was proposed in the budget? Deputy Mayor Whitner.
Are we sure? I think we definitely have to get it looked at. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, so I don't think we're going to be looking at $400,000 or $500,000 in my opinion, but prove me wrong. But I think we do have to look at it just to know what we have. So thank you.
Okay, so no changes on that. The other item we discussed was the signage upgrade. So, so staff have provided more of the rationale that went into this recommendation and why was considered a need more than a want, and the overall value. Any questions what is the final decisions we want to make on this sign. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was looking at this. I mean, our luck with digital signs hasn't been very good. We'll go to the complex, we'll go to maybe some other fire halls and stuff. To me, it is maybe more of a want than a need, but it's a lot of money, and 20-year life cycle, I doubt it. Probably won't last 10 with anything. All the new technology and digital stuff just doesn't last that long. So just keep that in mind. There may be the one we have at the MCP out here. I guess it's digital. Do we need to have two in conjunction to have everything? I just don't know. So if there's any other place to save any money, this may be it, but we'll go on with our budget discussions to see if there's any need. Thank you.
And your preference would be which way?
Well, my preference right now would be let's go further with our budget. If there's any place we could maybe save some money and delay this, we could do that with this project. We have some other things to look at, like conservation authorities and things like that. So let's just have a look if we could.
Any other comments on the Councillor Cerna?
Just I'll agree with the deputy mayor that this is something that's, to me, is more of a want and not a need. We do have a digital sign around the corner. So, you know, I don't think we need a digital sign every 500 feet. So I don't think it takes a whole lot of time to change a sign. And when we do, how often does it get changed? Once a month? So no, I don't think it's worth its dollar for now. We're trying to save some money, so let's leave it for now.
So this would be an amendment to the proposed budget. So do you want to consider would you like to propose a resolution to that? You want to come back after we finish all the follow-ups and then consider different resolutions? I think that's what I'm hearing. Okay. So indeed, so any other comments on item number 6? So the other follow-up I had committed to bringing back and looking into further was what was behind the request from the Catfish Conservation Authority. And so the update on that, so staff were able to organize the meeting in, very timely fashion. So really appreciate that. We're able to meet with the general manager and the chair of the board and our representative from the board, along with our CAO and manager of strategic initiatives. So so as you recall, so the overall increase in their request was 20%. So the task was to get into the details of that request. So the actual request for Malahide, the increase was actually 19%. So it's overall 20, but the increase for Malahide was 19. During the meeting, it was acknowledged that they've put themselves in a very difficult financial situation. I think everybody around the table could see the numbers. And so they recognize that this is after several years of approving budgets with a 6-figure shortfall on their operating budget. And at least the chair of the board said that they do regret that. So now that said, the approach that they're proposing is like a bit of a spike and a jump in terms of trying to address this difficult situation all at once. But to try to rectify the situation places the full and the immediate impact of those past decisions for several years on our ratepayers in a single year. So I think that's what we were reacting to. That's not really aligned with the approach, the preferred approach, and what we're working really hard, and our staff are working really hard at trying to ensure that increases are incremental, predictable, affordable. And so everything else that we're doing in the budget is exactly to avoid these kind of, 20% jump. So but everybody was in agreement that, yes, you do need to rectify something. And we need to find a compromise that would meet the needs of both parties, because we are in a partnership. So we ended the discussion with asking the board to consider maybe 7%. The reason we came up with 7% was because it was the number from our analysis that the shortfall that they had on the core mandate and the levels of service that we are expecting for them. So we thought, well, that would be fair that we help you with that part. So ultimately, so we left them and asked them to consider that. But ultimately, this committee can also make a decision. So do we want to go, and it's really, that's the gist of the discussion. Do we want to go with 7% and cover their deficit in core mandate operations? Do we want to meet in the middle? Do we want to go just with the ask? It does have an impact. I think maybe Talia, you have a slide just so we know exactly. So unlike other expenses, this one is a direct operational expense, so it has a direct impact on our levy increase. So I just wanted to, so that everybody can see. So a 7% increase. So right now, the budget that's being proposed, like the full package, is suggesting a 3.5% increase. And that in it has embedded just an inflation increase to the Catfish Creek levy. If we increase our levy to Catfish Creek, then we're looking at those numbers. So 7%, 10%, or the full 19%, which is actually what they are requesting of Malahide. Each decision has a different impact on the tax levy increase. So what is the wish of the committee? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the appointed director for Catfish Creek Conservation Area, it was really nice to sort of take off the Malahide hat for a meeting, because I don't get to do that too often. But to sit there with your teammates and try to negotiate, it's a little different position I've ever sat in, to be honest with you. Thank you very much, Talia, for coming out and just trying to understand their perspective. Yes, we've made decisions that didn't benefit us, robbing from Peter to pay Paul. The organization, the way the government has it set up, isn't really the best situation that they've got. They've delegated part of it for conservation and yet part of it for safety for people. And maybe the two should be broken apart a little bit, but it's hard to say. The board thought at the time when it was presented to them over there, we thought, okay, we need to fix the problem. If we don't fix the problem's only going to get worse. So that's how it sort of came to be. Now to put on the Malahide hat, to hand it all down in one shot, it's a hard pill to swallow. Constituents are definitely watching where we spend our money and spend their money. So if it's at all possible, like they need to be supported. There's no questions asked. And when I sit on this side of the table, I'd like to say, I'd like to see a 2-year fix. Like, okay, maybe not get it all in the first year, get it in 2 years. And see, the director over there has been told business as normal and continue, but yet the reality is we know there's a change coming, and that's factual. That's the truth of the matter. So they can be told to do business as normal. Business isn't normal anymore. Things have already started to change in other conservation areas. They're doing things sort of crazy, actually. And it's good to see these guys not doing that. They've got a plan. They've laid it out. They've actually provided, I believe they're going to provide Malahide a little bit of a future plan to show where they want to go and how they're trying to take the mandated things and make them cover themselves. But it's just hard. There's so many mandated things that it's just, the province just wants to hand that down. They just want to say, here, you deal with it. And it's not an easy position to be in, to sit on both sides, actually. So I guess I'd like to make a motion sort of that we go with like a 10%, that gives them half, and just see where that goes. And if it flies, it flies. And if it doesn't, we cross the road when we get there, in a sense. But that shows that we're willing to step up, I believe, to say, okay, yeah, you got a problem and we're willing to help, but we can't bail you right out 100% the first time around. I don't feel we should have to do that in a sense to our constituents. That's almost asking a little bit much. So I'll put that out there for conversation if that's possible. But and then they're seeing that we're supporting them, and to have a meeting as quick as they did and have the people come together the way they did quick to make it happen before this meeting means that everybody's concerned. So it's not that there's no concern for it. It's just you got to take the right channels. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table, so I would need a seconder if we want to debate. Councillor Cerna, you wish to second? Okay, so moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Cerna, and open it up for comments or question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was on Catfish Creek for, I think, 8 years, chairman for 5, and I know how they struggle, money-wise. And when you have a government that at one time gave them $340,000, that now gives them, I think, 40. I'm not up on the numbers, but they also dictate that you have to have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think $240,000 or $280,000 in mandated programs. So the government only funds them 2% or 3%, something like that. But they say you have to do this. Of course you're going to get in trouble financially. And the support that Catfish Creek gets from Ducks Unlimited and Wild Turkey Association and Kebbles Wetland and the Maple Syrup Festival and all the support that they get, and the Evans sisters, I think it was, that built the stage because it was falling down, and the McEwens that built that pavilion, and all the donations they get. It shows that people value that place. And when I was there, the hydro was so bad that the things were rotten, and the only things holding up the breakers were the wires. Okay, so these people need the money. I don't think they spend it foolishly. I know the employees didn't get a raise for 2 years to keep the thing afloat, so 10% is nothing. If it puts it from 3.5 to 3.7, I think we're doing the people a favor. I drove down that road the other day, conservation line, and every entryway to that trail system had 3 or 4 cars parked at least. So, I mean, to me, that's small potatoes. So, my heart is still with them. I think they do a great job. It's always packed. The kids love going there. It's a great place for everybody. So, and I know they rob Peter to pay Paul, and they probably rob Peter to pay Paul and Mary. So, yeah, they give them what they can. Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I sit on the Kettle Creek board, and I think Kettle Creek and Catfish are two organizations that are not, there's no fat to trim off the bone. It's they're pretty fine-tuned machines and do a lot of work with what they have, and it's important to support them. So, all for it.
Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would there be appetite to support half of the total request?
So the motion we're debating right now is 10%. So it's a little bit more than half.
Yes.
From the 19. Yeah.
Yes.
So we do have a mover and a seconder for the 10% increase. Yeah. So further comments or questions on that? Sorry, I'm not Deputy Mayor Whitner.
Yeah, just curious. Thank you, Mayor. That's the 2%. What difference does that make on the average person's taxes per year? Any idea? That'd be too hard to figure out, I suppose. I'm just wondering.
through you, Madam Mayor. So the current amount per household with the estimated 2.4% increase for Catfish Creek would be $34 per $100,000 of residential assessment. That includes the county portion. Increasing to a 10% increase on Catfish Creek. Takes us to 36, an additional $2.
Per $100,000 of assessment. Okay. So any further questions or discussion? We do have to vote on what's on the floor right now. Certainly. You have a recorded vote.
Okay, so the resolution, if
Just for the increase
right.
to Catfish Creek, yeah.
So the resolution reads that the committee recommend an amendment to the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority's proposed 2026 allocation such that the Catfish Creek line item reflects an increase of $17,650 over the 2025 allocation.
Right, and the 17,000 reflects the 10%.
Right.
So we have a mover and seconder. All those in favor, we'll do a recorded vote, actually.
So Councillor Leach. You want to use your mic?
No.
Councillor Wilson,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky. Do you want to use your mic there?
No.
Deputy Mayor Widner,
Yes.
so that carries 4 without your vote.
Yeah. I think
But
you have-
yeah,
you have
Mayor
to
Giguere.
record a vote,
Yeah.
but yeah, my vote is yes.
Okay. So that is carried.
Motion is carried. Okay, thank you for good discussion. So based on that, should we go back to then, to the sign? So we left that one open. So we just, either we don't need a resolution if, it goes into the budget as initially proposed. But we'll do a resolution or include that in the resolution, the recommendation from the committee, if you wish to take that out of the draft budget. Deputy Mayor Widner. Oh, Councilor Glinski.
I think the sign is something that can wait, especially since we're going with the Conservation Authority.
Would you be prepared to move that?
I will move that.
Remove the sign from the.
I will move that.
From the proposed budget. Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councilor Lewis, second. Further questions or debate? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Could we possibly defer the sign for another year? And I don't know, this might be a crazy idea. I know the sign at the South Fire Hall is really hard to read. It always has been. It's like it's too small. Would it be something we could look at to bring it up here and put a new one down there that's actually more readable and benefit the people on the highway? Because I can never read the thing, and it'd be a lot easier to read here. But just a thought I had, it might be an opportunity. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I think we've discussed that before. The reading was because of the size of the font. So they can change that without changing the sign. Like they can make the letters bigger. Is that what? So often there's like the messages has 3 or 4 lines, like within small font, and it's true, if you're driving by, it's really hard to read. I agree with that. I think at one point we had discussed just putting fewer words and just bigger letters. We can do that, I think, with the existing sign without moving the sign. Would that be a good place to start? Like I said, that is something we had discussed before. Maybe we go back to that.
I guess if that's possible, I don't know why it hasn't been done if it has been done, because it's just really hard to read, but. So if we did defer it, we could take, what do we need, 10,000 more? Take 10,000 out of the sign program, put it in the budget for another time, and there's our $10,000 for the Catfish Creek, so it may help our tax rate.
So, right, so the motion on the floor right now is to in fact defer this item to another year and consider it in the future year. Ms. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to clarify on that point. The sign is being funded out of capital reserves and will have no effect on the general tax levy.
Councillor Cerna?
I just wanted to make a comment. I think it's funny that we're talking about putting signs up so when people drive by, they can read it. But yet, if you're on a cell phone, that's called distracted driving.
Yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot of signage. There's a lot of signage on our roads these days, but that's for sure. Okay, so there we have a mover and seconder to remove the. Do you want to read the resolution just to confirm?
That the committee recommend an amendment to the council signage upgrade such that the line item totaling $20,000 be removed.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? I think the motion is carried. Okay, any other items in the budget that you wanted to bring up at this point? Any discuss or potentially amend? Deputy Mayor Widner?
To have a comment, I'm looking at some of the budgets from around the areas. I mean, there's a lot of budgets that are a whole lot worse than us. I'm not saying ours couldn't be better, but I think we've done a good job. We're putting money in reserves, which I do agree with, because we never know when something bad's going to happen. So I think we're doing really well with our budget, and I, thank all the staff for the hard work they've done, because, with the struggles we've had, it certainly came across really well. I mean, I look at St. Thomas, they're at 6 point something. I believe Tillsonburg's high too, so. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Leach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question for staff. So this has been a doozy of a winter from road maintenance perspective. How are we doing in terms of funds this year, and does that have impact on planning for next year's winter?
Who wishes to take that? The maintenance side or the financial side?
Through you, Madam Mayor. You're right, it has been quite the winter. Fortunately, a few of those events were tagged to the 2025 budget, but we don't have those final numbers in yet. We typically do anticipate when with our budget development that the bulk of our expenses are happening in the start of the year. So I don't really have a whole lot of concern at this point with our 2026. That being said, without actually crunching numbers and seeing what happens over the next 2 months, it's really hard to forecast anything. However, that would be something we'd probably have a lot better handle on. I think we usually do like a mid-year financial update. That would probably be the best time to really analyze that. We would then know at that point how we've affected the 2026 budget and what that'll kind of leave us for the fall winter of 26. So, yeah, it's always fun with winter control when you get days like this where you get a massive dumping and, I'll take this time to shamelessly plug my thanks to our staff for all the hard work that they do, and especially over the holidays. If everyone recalls, it was, Boxing Day and interruption of a lot of people's Christmas holidays. But they were out here diligently making sure that everyone else can get where they want to go, and I appreciate all of their efforts.
Well said, for sure. Councillor Leach.
Thank you. I do know that November and December were snowier than we've experienced in recent years, and I understand that there's some places have salt shortages, so it's nice to hear that our salt barns still have salt in them.
Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just want to echo our staff did a great job with the roads. I mean, it's been a struggle out there. For sure. They've done a good job with it, but I just want to go back to a comment I heard 20 years ago when I was on council about the same situation. What's this going to cost us? And the treasurer was Susan Wilson at the time. She says, you don't want to know. She says, you want to see money fly out the door, you start plowing a lot of snow. He said, so I don't know. You'll probably tell us if it goes bad, but we have so much planned for that, right? And hopefully we've been saving money over the years, and I think we've probably come under in quite a few years, but it's winter, it's Canada, and we have no choice. We have to do it. So.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see those municipalities' budget for winter control up in the north. Okay, so good discussion, good process. I think we're ready for this committee to make a recommendation to council to be considered at our next meeting in February. Almost ready?
Yeah. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has reviewed the proposed 2026 budget, and now therefore be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the 2026 budget as amended to include the Catfish Creek line item amendment and to remove the signage update line item amendment.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Glinski seconds. Any further discussions or comments? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Great job, everyone. Okay, so we're ready to move out of the Committee of the Whole.
Resolved that we do now move out of Committee of the Whole and reconvene the regular council meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wilson moves, Councillor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And that brings us to correspondence. Let's see, there are a couple. So there are 13 items. The item for the detachment board's request is number 13. Oh, let's see, it's on the other page. Right, so there are 14 items. So I want to pull out to start the OPP detachment board correspondence. So there is a request for admin support services, and we had asked staff to consider that. You want to give us an update on the plan?
You can do that.
CO Diaz?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we will be putting in a proposal with regard to just responding to this here. We have that drafted and ready. And it's at this point, we are, just suggesting a flat rate to make it easy. I think the board has mentioned here that it's to cover the administrative and financial management. We're going to put in a flat rate to capture in the amount of hours that the board has suggested here, saying at the high end approximately 20 hours per month. And that's what we responded to. And sort of treat it as a pilot, see how it goes within 1 year's time, and see if any revisions are needed at that point.
Okay, and I think earlier on we had talked about some of the restructuring and the way some of the roles have been adjusted. Like this, there is capacity for that, and will fit actually with some of the development and upskilling that we want to do and maximizing the great human resources that we already have. So I think that's a good fit. The timing is good. But we do want to have an endorsement.
We'll do it
A resolution
with the other items.
with the other items as well? Okay. So any questions or comments on that response? And so number 14 also has the user fee.
Separate.
That will be a separate resolution. You want to start with that? You want to do?
Is there any others that council wants to?
Okay, so we'll come back to 13 and 14. So let's go back to the first 12 then. Any comments, anything else that needs to be pulled out you wish to support? Deputy Mayor Whitner?
Thank you, Mayor. 6, 7, and 8, they're all, considering the Conservation Authority's new boundaries. Some of these people are our neighbors, some of these boards are our neighbors. I know at the county, we had 8 letters opposing what's going on. So I think I'd like to see us support these if we could. Thank you. I'd move that.
And we submitted a response, right? Right, within the window. So I don't know if we can respond, if these are responses, or like if we can support.
Just support them. We can't support them, or can we? I think we can support them. I'm not sure. Not why are they here?
So some of these items are just for information. So essentially, number 6 was their submission to that proposed boundary. Malahide, we wrote our own response and supported a letter as was discussed. So us sending a response just saying that we support their boundary, I mean, we certainly can, but whether it's not going to have any merit on what has been submitted.
Yeah, that's fine. I just think we should support them. I mean, I don't know if it'll have any merit anyway. I think their mind is made up, but if no one says anything, no one says anything. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think, so to be fair, so council has submitted a response, and the window for actual, formal responses is closed, and I think, and we can see from the volume of correspondence that I'm sure it's going to take quite a while for them to sift through the volume of responses they have received. So I think the message has been passed. So thank you for that. Any other items you wish to highlight? So if not, we can go ahead and receive the first 12 items. Is that?
So I'm not sending a letter so far. I just. The council acknowledges the correspondence regarding the Elgin OPP Detachment Board proposal request and directs that staff submit a proposal that items 6, 7, and 8 be acknowledged for their submissions by Malahide Township Council and that the remaining items be noted and filed.
Okay, well done. Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Whitner moves. Councilor Cerna seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. So now we can do the number 14th is the approval of the user fees at the ECC.
That the Council of the Township of Malahide approve the 2026 ECC user fees.
Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves. Councilor Wilson seconds. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Brings us to confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw number 2605 being Confirmatory bylaw be given first, second, and third readings and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And now adjournment.
The council adjourned its meeting at 9:46 to meet again on February 5th, 2026 at 7 p.m.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Whitner moves, Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening.